Hey, Eric, what do you want to talk about this week?
Same thing we talk about every week, Amir. Why does Newfoundland need that extra 30 minutes?
Live to tape from Vancouver, it's Eric's Living Room, a show best listened to from a distance. Featuring Amir Ali. And now, a man I would let marry my daughter. Here is your host, Eric Chapman.
Welcome to the living room. I'm Eric. He is Amir. I don't know what time it is. Does it matter? Do people do time checks on podcasts? I don't want to call this a podcast.
What is this? Where am I?
This is a mess.
Where am I?
I mean, you're asking loaded questions right off the top.
I know what time it is, but I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, don't tell me.
Unless you really want to know.
I don't want to know.
Don't tell me.
Okay, so I missed this last time, and I want to do it this time. I've created a new sound, some ancient chanting called Amirian, and I'm going to do this live, so bear with me. But Amir's been making a lot of sounds
Maybe they'll bring out the hazelnut.
and screwing up words and things like that. And so I found this rhythm. He's got this rhythm to his mistakes. It's actually quite intense and quite lovely. So just bear with me for 1 sec here as I create this sound. So here we go, Amir. You ready?
Now
pick it up.
Fresh. Yeah. Maybe they'll bring out the hazelnut.
See, your mistakes
That
have
was
like,
awesome.
right? It's got this rhythm to it.
Yeah, I mean, we all have a natural musical language with the way we speak, I think.
Yeah, we do. I was
At least if you're an interesting person.
yeah. If you're boring, well, what does a boring person sound like? But I was reading that some indigenous languages, it's described as circular, the way they speak.
I think I've heard that too.
And so I don't know if it's most the rhythm, but just how it's like, it comes full circle, and it's very, very slow, methodic in their speech, which is great. So,
The rhythm in my bones.
mental health check. Okay, so I'm in the middle of a struggle right now.
Oh.
I have the same feelings attached to excitement as I do to anxiety.
Oh.
And so I can't separate the two. So when I get excited, I think I'm getting an anxiety attack. And when I get an anxiety attack, I'm like, oh, this is what excitement's supposed to feel like? I'm really confused. And so it's this weird kind of thing I'm trying to separate. I don't know if you're familiar with this sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That resonates as a performer because I remember being in my high school musical, no joke, in senior year. And behind the scenes, before the curtain opened, there's this, what you could easily point to as anxiety, but really what it was just like nervous excitement and the positive side of like stress or anxiety. And I think you kind of need that before a show starts. It like pumps you up and you sort of,
I agree.
it fills you with almost like an adrenaline,
I think there's something wrong with you if you don't feel that in some sort of way. Even if, I'm sure even like the most seasoned professionals still have that feeling.
So what's the dilemma here? It's again that you feel...
Well, what it does is it actually stops me from going... So it puts up a wall where it stops me from going outside. Or not stop... Sorry. Doesn't stop me from going outside. It puts me not wanting to go and do things and leave the house because I'll feel excited to do them and I'll feel like it's anxiety, right? And so I'll be like, oh, I don't want to leave. I just want to stay inside. I don't want to go meet this person. Things like that. So it creates this wall and it puts it up right in front of me.
I wonder if we all have some kind of subconscious fear of leaving our houses or leaving our homes if we have them, because maybe subconsciously we think the outside world is scary because there's so many dangers that we read and hear and have to think about because of the news and the media and like entertainment. I wonder if that plays a part. I know it does for me, but I feel like the anxiety I feel alone inside outweighs how I would feel if I did leave my apartment.
For sure. Especially people from different communities. Like Asian, like with the anti-Asian hate that's out. Like it's always been around, but it's really bad now. Like there you go right there.
And actually, I think for me, a lot of it comes from, I didn't have a therapy session this week, but this seems to be our therapy session right now.
Okay, yeah.
When I was younger, and I would say like, between 7 and like 12 years old, I used to want to go to my friends' houses in the neighborhood. There was literally one friend I had, James Lee. If you're watching, man, I miss you. He used to live across the street and behind the house across the street and behind that house. So like 3 houses down would have literally been maybe a 45-second walk to go over there if I wanted to. But anytime I used to want to leave the house as a kid, my mom used to say, it's a bad time. And I don't mean like that moment is a bad time, but in society, things are dangerous and troubling.
She was speaking of the overarching societal stuff.
Yeah, was scared that I'd leave the house and like get shot by some random person or something. She was that fearful of society. And I think growing up, that kind of bred that fear into me a little bit. I don't feel that now, but I do think, people feel that way, sadly.
Dang, I had a friend named Jason Lee.
Jason Lee.
Yeah, when I was speaking of the Lees, as your friend was.
Yeah.
So, oh, man, I never had that as a kid. I was never...
You're free.
Because, probably irresponsibly, my mom let me and my brother start roaming very, 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 like, too young.
Like, what age are we talking?
Like, through elementary.
See, I mean, depending on where you grow up, I don't know if that's too young.
Okay, what is too young? Okay, then maybe I over-exaggerated that then.
Depending on what, like, I think maybe kindergarten is too young. Grade 1, maybe like if you're in grade 5 or 6 or 7. I know I was mature enough to have been able to like walk around the neighborhood with my friends.
Okay.
Or go to the park with them.
Because I feel like through when I lived in Edmonton, Alberta, when I went to elementary at Kamiosek, I feel like almost through that whole time I was roaming the neighborhood and like then getting into trouble too as a young kid.
I mean, let's face it. There's, predators have been out there since the fucking well before our time of childhood. So, I think you definitely have to protect your children, but you just give them the right tools to survive on their own, right?
Well, you said some really I'm just keep thinking of the walls thing, and you said some really Carl Sagan things last time. For the last show on the exit, and I just wondering if there's a reference to this conversation here, and if your walls are being broken, or do you have some walls up in front of you?
I've been dealing with a lot of walls lately, and some of those walls have to do with this concept of I don't know. I guess for forgiveness. I think growing up, I held a lot of grudges and stuff like that. If someone does you wrong, I think that kind of inadvertently or involuntarily builds a wall against that person. And I used to have problems letting go with things. So I think that's something that I'm dealing with right now is
letting go,
forgiving, moving forward. This was something that I told to Eric off the air about last week in regards to this concept of walls. When I was in like my mid to late 20s, I got a trip to South America and lived in Ecuador for a month and a half in like the middle of nowhere. Had like little electricity, no internet. There were like 9-second showers. The way of living was like, it's not an exaggeration.
You said internet. I bet a lot of people freaked out, but the first thing that freaks me out is a 9-second shower.
So there was about 30 people that lived in a commune.
That stunk.
Yeah, we had compost toilets. And there was only enough hot water in this tank for everyone to get 3 pumps of water. So you'd push like a thing, and 3 seconds of water would come out.
Yeah.
You'd get another pump, 3 more seconds of water would come out. And you would have to try and clean as much as possible in this like literally 9 seconds. So I think, the concept of hygiene and stuff like that was easily one of the first things that was like, oh man, can I do this?
Oh yeah. And you did. How long did it take you to get over that?
So this is really interesting. First 2 weeks, I was like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think we might have even had the person I was with. I think we might have even had a conversation about just going back to our hostel in like the city area.
Okay. What would that take for you to get back to the city? Would that be a big adventure? Could you have done it?
It would be an adventure. We'd have to take like this shady pickup truck to a bus depot, and then a bus from the bus depot back to the main city, which was Quito. And one night in like literally the 2-week mark, I had a dream.
Oh, jeez.
I know, this is crazy. I had a dream that I was in a car driving along the side of a cliff, and it was like a one-way road. And a car started coming the other way. And again, there's only one lane on this like really steep, narrow cliff. And
was it like a vivid dream, like super intense?
So intense.
Okay.
The car comes at me, and the car that I'm in veers off the cliff and into the water. So I'm trapped in a car underneath the water, and I remember in the dream kicking out the windshield and surfacing up to the top of the water and I woke up from that and it felt like the most exhilarating thing that I've ever experienced. And it was something to do with that, like survival versus the situation that I was dealing with, that like something triggered after that dream. And the next 2 weeks went by like 2 days. I was having a blast and just living and not having to care about society and a job and like the things that we consider necessities.
Was there stuff? What did you notice, like when you went through that transformation and you were worrying about your stank or being dirty?
Yeah.
What were some things that like you noticed immediately shed from your worry or your mind?
So again, the first 2 weeks I was like thinking about all the luxuries that I had that I was not able to enjoy anymore: video games, internet, whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And after that, I stopped giving a fuck about all of it. I didn't care. Like literally, I think back now and I'm like, I wish I didn't leave. I could have stayed unplugged. But the mistake that we made was right after our month was up. We could have stayed longer, but we decided, because my partner at the time had friends in the UK. This was like November, December time.
Okay.
We're like, let's go stay with them in the UK. But we're going from like a remote mountain with nothing to the middle of London, essentially, during holiday season, and the culture clash was like, it ruined me, it wrecked me.
Like in what ways? Like what was it? Were you like a vampire seeing the sun? Like
no, it was just like I was walking in the city. I was doing all the things that people do when they travel, and I just like I missed the quietness and the solitude of those mountains, and like not having to worry about consumerism or money. And yeah.
Do you go back to moments there and things? Do you like use knowledge gained from your San Pedro and stuff? And like, was there vomit involved?
There was no vomit. So Eric just mentioned San Pedro. I don't think they know what San Pedro is.
Sorry, yeah, I wanted to clarify. Is there a difference between ayahuasca and San Pedro? So get into that.
So one of the reasons we even wanted to go is because we learned that this commune was offering ayahuasca experience. And when we got there, we were able to do it, but they were like, you know what, because this is your first sort of plant ceremony ritual thing, it's probably not a good idea to start with ayahuasca because it can be really intense. But then they were like, but we do a San Pedro ritual. And San Pedro is a cactus that has a slime that they brew into a drink.
Okay, what does it taste like? Does it smell?
It tastes gross. We did like shots of it.
Oh.
And the active ingredient in this cactus is mescaline. And I had no idea what mescaline was.
Yeah.
And long story short, at some point during this ceremony, which was overnight for like 8 to 12 hours, we all got into a room together and we're listening to the South American shaman play us songs and tell us things that someone is interpreting. At some point the next morning, he was giving this speech about homeless people. And he was like, you know, we realize that this person on the street is, you know, they're not able to afford food. They don't have a place to live. We realize that. But do we realize that we're realizing it? And I think what he was trying to say was, we're not turning that realization into any action. Sure, we realize it, but who gives a fuck that we're realizing it? We're still walking past them and not giving a shit.
Oh, it's funny. I think of that when I do that sometimes. Okay.
And for whatever reason, them saying this to me, I started sobbing my eyes out.
Really?
And then I look across the room to one of the people that were my friends at the time. He starts sobbing his eyes out. And at some point, everyone in the room starts crying. It was this weird, emotional, psychedelic experience. And then he told me that what was happening for me was that there was like a wall breaking down in my mind when I thought of this concept of, because I guess that there was a wall separating the realization from the action, and maybe that was breaking down. I think, unfortunately, I still haven't taken enough action, or as much action as maybe any of us want to take on any of these issues.
I mean, when will we ever fully do it? But at least you're taking some.
Yeah, but man,
wow.
that sobbing trip was like...
I've heard some people take trips and it feels like a womb. Like I've heard of people like actually like bursting out of a tent because they needed the action of like. Did you ever have that sort of like any sensations like that?
No, that happened to me on a mushroom trip once. I didn't burst out of a tent, but it felt like I was being reborn in some weird way.
Wow. Did it lead you to any like you don't believe in God, so I don't want to say religious stuff, but did that ever take you in a direct, because this would have been close to when you left religion in your teens. This is way earlier in your life,
I left
wasn't
religion in my early 20s.
Oh, and when did you go to take this trip?
This was like mid 20s.
So it was then. I'm
yeah,
right. Then it
really
was
early 20s, late teens. Yeah, you're right.
Right. So was there like, because you were pushing that so far away, was there any faith or spirituality connected to your trip?
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about
Yeah, new clip.
a little bit about
Oh.
spirituality. Oh, my God. Maybe they'll bring out the hazelnut. I know you're not really a spiritual person. I think I might be slightly more of a spiritual person, but it's not like in a god-like way or some omnipresent force way.
Right.
If I think about that room and people starting to sob together, it's like I don't know. It's gonna sound really cheesy and cliche, but like a connectedness between people, maybe.
See,
or
that's part of my problem with the spiritual
sounds too
stuff.
hokey.
It's just too fucking hokey.
like I'm a hippie or something.
Yeah, I'm all for hippie stuff, and it's okay. But I don't know, for some reason with this, I just get like, oh, here we go. What do you want? Some essential oils too? Fuck.
Yeah, I wonder how I would convince someone like you that maybe there is some sort of spiritual component in life. Because I remember what you were saying last week was your idea was we're literal, like just matter. There's like stardust or something or atoms and carbon, and that's it.
I don't need that shit. I don't need faith. I don't need spirituality. And you can make the interconnections all you want with your philosophical mind, whatever. But to me, thank you, paper. There's probably people who are looking into that. Probably, I see that paper is moving because
that's a
something's
sign.
telling
That's a
you.
sign from like if you were to say like, give me a sign right now if there's some spiritual and your paper just fell. Your paper just fell.
So I don't look to spirituality because it's what our existence is so beautiful and it's so enough to feed my soul in that way. Like we were literally just a small atom floating through nothing. And through nothing, like understanding that concept is really hard to do. But once you can wrap your head around nothing and the chances of something in nothing and something else in nothing running into each other, it's astronomical. The chances of that happening are so orgasmically rare. And that orgasm of that knowledge and what was built off that connection of two molecules in the universe is enough. And why should I don't understand why that's not enough. Like, look at the sun, for goodness sakes. We're spinning around the damn thing and we're helixing through the galaxy as we follow this thing. Like, that is incredible to me. And so that, I guess, if you want to, you're philosophical, that's your spirituality and God, fine, I don't care. But that's what it is. And there's no spiritual focus behind it.
I didn't think we'd get to orgasm on that on that train. Okay, what about this? Have you ever been in love?
I think so. I don't know for sure. Because I don't
Interesting.
know
Okay.
if I was loved properly and if my concept of love is correct. But go. Yeah.
I also, until this year, I never thought that I was ever, this might hurt some people's feelings if they ever see it, but it's just the truth. I don't think that I've ever been in love truly before this year. And I think I had a moment this year that was like,
How old are you? You're 34,
I'm
35.
35.
Yeah,
I
we
thought
talked
I
about
was
this.
34.
You wish you were 34.
I wish
No,
I
you
was
don't, do you?
27.
Yeah.
Whatever.
No, that's too young. That's too young. Okay, but wow,
And-
yeah.
And there was this moment where we literally just looked at each other for 20 minutes without saying a single word. And it was like time slowed down and everything else ceased to exist. And it sounds, again, like some weird
Oh, I'm throwing up.
rom-com shit.
But
And that never happened to me before. And I
Mhm.
always thought that shit was not real. And it happened. And there was a lot of other things that happened during this experience, just like shit, like not just one time, not just like a coincidence. Oh, this happened randomly because we both were watching something. But
how do you know?
no, listen, tons and tons of times, literally saying the exact same thing or the exact same random joke that we've never heard before. Like we're saying a silly, like me and you, we might say something silly, like some of the shit you record me saying, like a hazelnut or whatever. Maybe they'll bring out the hazelnut. But we would do shit like that and say it at the exact same moment, the exact same second, in the exact same way, numerous times. And it was just like, how the fuck is this possible?
Which is beautiful, by the way. I'm glad you got to experience that.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
And like they're so vivid, these things in my head. I'm like, how can this be anything black and white that's not introducing something that's out there that's more than just atoms?
But I mean, atoms aren't black and white. There's like some stuff.
True that.
There
exactly.
is, there's science.
Some variability, right?
And see, there's science probably that can explain exactly what's happening. When you get on a vibe with someone, like I've done that with best friends, with like people too. So I get the vibe and I get the connection. But for me, I just never like, and I feel it like the butterflies and the hoo 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 hoo, and let's kiss. I almost said tongue kiss, but that's gross.
Especially with you.
Who says tongue kiss?
Okay, but you just made me think of something. I know you hate philosophy, right?
Oh fuck! I'm so annoyed with it right now. Yeah, I used to be really philosophical, but now I'm just like, take your 10,000 books. And this is what turned me. Keep your thought really quick. Why I turned off philosophy, because I was super into it, is because Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I just don't like either, though, so don't take this the wrong way. He explained it in this way. You look at books on gravity. You go to a science or a library, and you look at books on gravity. There's 6, because we know everything there's to know about gravity. Everything. And we don't need to know anymore because we know everything. And you look at things like, certain parts of science and physics. You look at it, there's 4 books on it because we know everything. But you look at the shelves of philosophy, and there's countless books, 10,000, 10 million books on philosophy because we don't know anything about it. It's all just how we feel, and it's the emotion. And I'm not trying to shoot that emotion down. Please feel your emotion and share your emotion with me. But why do we have to connect it to all this stuff? Why can't it just be there and leave it?
Well, that's how I feel about science in some way. So that was my thought.
Trippy. Okay, go. Yeah, that's fascinating.
So you were saying something about
go so much. What a
love.
Yeah,
Shut
go.
up.
Yeah, sorry.
You were saying something about love and how science can define this or describe this. But in my mind, sometimes when I think about science, it's not necessarily that it's telling us what it is. It's just a way of understanding something through this language of science. But there's maybe some people out there that don't believe in science, maybe, Eastern philosophies or ancient philosophies that don't have our modern interpretations of our everyday living, like love or whatever the hell.
Yeah, but science isn't a belief.
But isn't it?
No, science is fact, because you can have this conversation right now on the philosophical side, and over the years it will change and turn into something else. But if we have a conversation about science right now, the same scientific conversation, it will evolve, but it will eventually come back to this because it's scientific fact.
So I do think there's a lot of things that are just scientific facts, like the Earth spins, like gravity is a concept, like the Earth is orbiting around the sun. Stuff like that. But there's some science that's just they call it a theory for a reason, right? And I think, again, something like the concept of love, I know science has explained it like, chemicals firing in both people in a certain way and shit like that. But that, again, for me, I feel like that's more just an understanding, and hard for me to say that that's a fact.
Okay, I'd like that.
That's what I'm feeling is just some fucking chemicals.
Yeah.
Because that, for me, it diminishes what I'm feeling for a person when science just says it's chemicals.
See, it doesn't for me, and that's the difference.
So you think it's fine that it's just
it
chemicals
doesn't,
that you're processing and stuff?
Everything, the feelings are the same. My feelings are no different. I still get that feeling. I feel the emotions. I have love. I have compassion. I have sadness. I have anger in my heart. I feel those things. But they're a chemical process in my brain that happens, and I need to learn to control them.
Yeah. So I guess.
But I like that. I really like what you said right there, though, because you drew that line, and wherever it may be for someone, because you have a very scientific brain. You're a thinker for sure, but you also are spiritual. So, and for you, it's at love, and that's where you draw the line.
Yeah.
where the spirituality and the science connect, and one turns into the other or vice versa, and it becomes a great question for you.
Yeah, so I guess for me, to some level, love is a spiritual thing.
And I agree with you. It is. And love making can be a spiritual thing. Especially with that good, ooh, yeah. But you know what I mean? And that's why I want to be careful when I have these conversations, because I don't want to feel like I'm not feeling that same thing, because I do, but it's just the words I choose to explain it are different, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair, man.
Yeah.
You got your opinion on it, I got mine. Man, me too, dude. Anyway, what do you want to talk about next week?
How to never do what they do.